For a long time, the Arabs were not strangers to the truth. Most of them had once answered the call of Ishmael, عليه السلام, and through him they had held on to the religion of his father, Ibrahim, عليه السلام. They worshipped Allah alone. They believed in His oneness. They honored the sacred house. And for generations, that light remained. But time has a quiet way of stealing truth. Not always through loud rebellion, sometimes through slow forgetting. Little by little, people began to lose what they had been reminded of. Yet even then, something remained, like an ember buried under ash. They still believed in Allah. They still respected the Kaaba. They still remembered Ibrahim. But the purity was fading. And then, one man opened a door that would change Arabia forever. The man who brought idols to the Kaaba. His name was Amr bin Luhai, a chief of Uzza. And here is the painful part. He was not known as an evil man. He was famous for charity, righteousness, and care for religion. His people loved him deeply and obeyed him completely. And that is why his mistake became so dangerous. He traveled to Syria, and there he saw people worshiping idols. Instead of rejecting it, he admired it. He thought, this must be good. Syria is the land of prophets and scriptures. So he returned to Mecca, carrying an idol with him. That idol was Hubal. He placed it inside the Kaaba itself, in the very heart of the sacred house, and he called the people to worship it. And the people followed, not because it made sense, but because the man who called them was trusted. That is how paganism entered Mecca, and from Mecca it spread across Hijaz, because when the spiritual center changes, the whole land changes. Idols multiply across Arabia. Soon, famous idols appeared everywhere. Manat was worshipped near Qadid by the Red Sea. Al-Lat was honored in Ta'if. Uzza stood in the valley of Nakhla. And the idols kept increasing. Some traditions even mention that Amr bin Luhai dug up ancient idols once worshipped by the people of Nuh, عليه السلام, like Wad, Suwa, Yahuth, Ya'uk, and Nasr, and distributed them among tribes during pilgrimage seasons. Every tribe carried an idol home. Every household had one, and the Kaaba itself became crowded with them. By the time the Prophet ﷺ conquered Mecca, 360 idols surrounded the Kaaba. Imagine that. The house built for Allah, surrounded by hundreds of false gods. And when the Prophet ﷺ entered Mecca, he did what Ibrahim would have done. He broke them until the sacred house was cleansed again. Why they worshipped idols? The Arabs still claimed they followed Ibrahim, but idol worship became their strongest identity. They called upon idols in hardship. They made vows to them. They begged them for rain, children, victory, protection. Not always because they believed idols were greater than Allah, but because they believed idols were closer. They said, "We worship them only so they may bring us nearer to Allah, and these are our intercessors with Allah." It was a tragic contradiction. They believed in Allah, but they no longer knew how to reach Him with pure hearts. So, they created middlemen. Sacrifices, offerings, and religious confusion. They offered sacrifices at stone altars. They slaughtered animals, but not in the name of Allah. They dedicated portions of crops and cattle to idols, and strangely, they even assigned portions to Allah, but then found excuses to transfer Allah's share to idols. Never the opposite. The Quran exposed this hypocrisy clearly. Their religion became a mixture of superstition, selfishness, and rituals without meaning. Strange sacred animals. They invented rules about certain animals. Some camels were freed for idols, some sheep were reserved, some animals could no longer be used for work. They gave them names: Bahira, Saiba, Wasila, and Hami. These practices were not mercy, they were superstition. Allah declared in the Quran that He never commanded such things, and that people had invented lies in His name. It is authentically reported that these superstitions began with Amr bin Luhai. Arrows of fate, gambling disguised as religion. When Arabs faced major decisions, travel, marriage, war, they often did not pray for guidance. Instead, they cast aslam, featherless arrows. One arrow meant yes, one meant no, and one was blank. They used these arrows to decide destiny, sometimes even to judge lineage and family ties. Hubal, the idol in the Kaaba, became like a judge, and what began as a sacred house became a place of confusion. Soothsayers, stars, and omens. The Arabs also believed deeply in soothsayers, diviners, and astrologers. Some claimed jinn whispered secrets to them. Others claimed they could uncover stolen goods or lost animals. Astrologers watched stars and promised knowledge of the future. They believed stars controlled rainfall. They believed some months were cursed. Some animals were bad omens. Some birds could decide whether a journey would succeed. They even believed the soul of a murdered person would wander until revenge was taken. So, fear became part of religion. Not peace, not certainty, not mercy. Yet, even with all this corruption, some traces of Ibrahim's religion remained. And here is what makes this story so heartbreaking. Even with all this corruption, some traces of Ibrahim's religion remained. They still performed Hajj, they still circumambulated the Kaaba, they still stood at Arafah, they still offered sacrifices. But innovations polluted these rituals. Quraysh, out of arrogance, refused to stand at Arafah with the other tribes. They stopped at Muzdalifah, believing they were superior. The Quran corrected them. Then depart from the place whence all the people depart. They also invented strange rules during pilgrimage. Some pilgrims refused to eat certain foods, some refused shade, some refused tents. Even worse, outsiders were forced to circumambulate the Kaaba in Quraysh clothing. If they could not afford it, men performed tawaf naked, and women used only a small cloth. Allah revealed, "O children of Adam, take your adornment while performing tawaf." And some pilgrims, while in ihram, refused to enter their homes from the front door, believing it was piety to enter from the back. The Quran corrected them. It is not righteousness that you enter houses from the back. So even sacred worship was twisted by pride and superstition. Other religions entered Arabia. While idol worship dominated Hijaz, other religions also entered Arabia. Judaism. Jewish migration came in waves. Some arrived after earlier destructions in Palestine. Later, another major wave came after Roman occupation in 70 CE. Many settled in Hijaz, especially Yathrib, Medina, Khaybar, and Taima. They built forts and villages. They influenced politics. By the time Islam came, famous Jewish tribes existed, including Banu Qurayza, Banu Nadir, and Banu Kainuka, and many others. Judaism also entered Yemen through As'ad Abi Karb. Later, his successor, Yusuf Dhu Nuwas, attacked Najran's Christians and tried to force conversion. When they refused, they were burned alive. The tragedy remembered as the story of the people of the ditch. Christianity entered Arabia. Christianity entered Arabia through Abyssinian and Roman influence. It spread in Yemen after Abyssinian occupation. It spread in Najran through missionaries like Fimeon, known for honesty and ascetic life. Major tribes that embraced Christianity included Ghassan, Taghlib, Tai, and some Himyar kings. But for many Arabs, Christianity remained distant, a religion not deeply connected to their daily lives. Magianism and Sabianism. Magianism spread among Arabs living near Persia, in Iraq, Bahrain, and along the Persian Gulf Coast. Some Yemenis adopted it during Persian rule. Sabianism also existed in Iraq and parts of Syria and Yemen, but gradually declined as Judaism and Christianity expanded. The religious situation. A world spiritually dry. This was the religious world of Arabia before